This is Prince Handley coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure love. The voice of Israel and for Israel. I want to talk to you today about its replacement time in the kingdom of God on earth. In the last podcast, we studied how King Ahasuerus' servants that waited upon him suggested and talked him into making a decree. Let fair young virgins be sought for the king, and let the maiden which pleases the king be replacement for Vashti. You can read that in Esther, chapter 1 and chapter 2. The king appointed officers in all 127 provinces of his kingdom to gather beautiful young virgins to the palace at Shushan so that he could choose one to be queen to replace Queen Vashti. In Shushan, the palace city, lived a Jew named Mordecai who had been taken captive from Jerusalem under Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Mordecai had raised his cousin Esther, who was orphaned after her parents died. Esther was beautiful. God set this situation up to bring forth Esther and Mordecai. God sets situations up to bring you forth. Esther was ultimately chosen after at least 12 months of preparation with oil of myrrh and sweet aromas. And the king loved Esther above all the women who were candidates to replace Vashti. Esther obtained grace and favor in the king's sight more than all the virgins, so he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. At this time, Esther had not made known to the king that she was Jewish. In those days, Mordecai, Esther's cousin, found out that two of the king's officers were planning to assassinate the king. Mordecai told it to Esther the queen, and she let the king know, also having the matter certified in the court records. These two men who were assassins were then hanged. After all these things, the king promoted a man named Haman above all the princes in the kingdom. And the king commanded people to bow before Haman. But Mordecai refused to do so, and told them that he was a Jew, and that he was not going to bow down to a man. Eventually, people told Haman about this, and he became full of anger. The people wanted to see if Mordecai would succeed, to see if there was any import to belonging to the God of Israel. Satan stirred up Haman, and he then decided to destroy all the Jews, Mordecai's people, throughout the whole kingdom, from India to Ethiopia. Haman lied to the king and convinced the king that the Jews were a bad influence in the kingdom and should be destroyed. He talked the king into letting Haman prepare a decree for their destruction in all 127 provinces. The copy of the decree was delivered by horsemen to the provinces, ordering the massacre of all Jewish people, including women and children, on one set day, and to take their material wealth as well. God knew about Haman ahead of time, and he knew the Jews would need deliverance. God knows about you, my friend, ahead of time, and he knows when you need deliverance. In every province, Jews started weeping and mourning. Many started fasting. The Jews were not afraid to show their emotions. The time was drawing near for their extermination. Mordecai tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and went out into the middle of the city, crying with a loud voice. Esther heard about Mordecai and sent one of the king's officers to find out what was happening. God honors fasting. When is the last time you fasted, my friend? Fast to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your country. Mordecai showed the officer a copy of the decree that had been made, to show it to Esther, and to command her to go into the king to make a request for mercy for her people, the Jews. But Esther sent the officer back to Mordecai to explain to him that she could not go into the king without having been called by him. It was a death sentence to do so. Also, she had not been called by the king for the last 30 days. But Mordecai answered Esther back, "Don't think that you will escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if you altogether hold your peace at this time, then there shall enlargement and deliverance from God arise to the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house shall be destroyed. And who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" God brings deliverance, my friend, and He brings enlargement. When God delivers you from something, He then provides for your enlargement. King David said, "He brought me forth also into a large place. He delivered me because He delighted in me." You can read that in 2 Samuel 22:20 and Psalm 18, verse 19. After God delivered Israel from Egypt, He directed them to a large place of no want. The Bible tells us in the book of Judges, chapter 18, "When you go, you shall come into a people secure, and to a large land, for God has given it into your hands, a place where there is no want of anything that is in the earth." So then Esther sent an answer back to Mordecai, saying, "Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast for me. Don't eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast the same. I will go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I die, I die." Your decision to die to your own will always brings you into a place of enlargement from God. Yeshua taught, "For whosoever shall save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it." You can read that in the Brit Hadashah in the New Testament in Luke chapter 9, verse 24. On the third day of complete fasting, Esther went into the inner court of the king's house and stood before him while he was on the throne. She obtained favor in the king's sight, and he held out his golden scepter to her. The king asked her what she wanted, that it would be given her to the half of his kingdom. She then invited the king and Haman to a banquet she had prepared that day. Never let your enemy know what you're planning. At the banquet, the king asked her what her request was. She then invited the king and Haman to a second banquet she would have the next day, and told the king she would then make her request known. I want you to notice something. Notice the importance of timing and of being led by the Spirit of God, the Ruach Elohim. After this first banquet, Haman went home happy, but as he passed the king's gate, Mordecai would not bow down to him. This made Haman mad, but he restrained himself. At home, he told his wife Zeresh and her friend about his promotion and the invitation he received to the banquet the next day. Also, he told them about passing Mordecai in the king's gate and that Mordecai would not bow down to him. Haman's wife and friends told him he should build a gallows 75 feet high, about 23 meters, upon which to hang Mordecai, and that he should ask the king for permission to do the same the next day at the banquet. That made Haman happy, and he caused the gallows to be made. Notice something. The next 24 hours were of critical importance to Esther and the Jewish people. What about the next 24 hours in your life, my friend, and in your country? That night the king could not sleep, and he commanded someone to read records, the chronicles of the kingdom. Written in the records, he found that Mordecai had saved him from an assassination attempt, and he asked, "What honor and dignity has been done to Mordecai for this?" His servants answered, "Nothing has been done for him." Notice something. An angel probably kept the king from sleeping. God was answering the prayers and the fasting of the Jewish people. About then, Haman came into the outer court to speak to the king about hanging Mordecai. And the king asked Haman, "What shall be done to the man whom the king delights to honor?" Thinking that the king was talking about him, Haman answered, "Put royal clothes of the king upon him, with the royal crown, and let him ride through the city on the king's horse." Then the king commanded Haman to do this to Mordecai. Before it was time to go to the second banquet of Esther's, Haman went home mourning because of Mordecai's success. Even his wife and friends told him, "If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom you have begun to fall, you shall not prevail against him, but you shall surely fall before him." You can read that in Esther chapter 6, verse 13. Never put your hand against the Jews or against Israel. In the Torah, Genesis chapter 12, verse 3 tells us, we read where God told Abram, "And I will bless them that bless you, and curse him that curses you, and in you shall all families of the earth be blessed." While Haman and his wife were still talking, the king's officer came to take Mordecai to the second banquet Esther had prepared. At the banquet, Esther told the king her petition. She told him of the plans to destroy her people, the Jews, and that wicked Haman was the adversary. Then one of the king's servants told the king about the gallows Haman had prepared upon which he planned to hang Mordecai. The king said, "Hang him, hang Haman thereon." You can read that in Esther chapter 7. On that day the king gave the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, to Queen Esther. Esther told the king that Mordecai was her cousin, and that he had raised her after the death of her parents. The king took off his ring, which he had taken back from Haman, and he gave his ring to Mordecai. Esther then set Mordecai over the house of Haman. The king then told Esther and Mordecai to write a decree allowing the Jews in every province from Ethiopia to India to protect themselves and to destroy all who would attempt to harm them. They were also given permission to take plunder and take goods from their enemies. Don't quit too soon, my friend. Never quit too soon. The king told Esther that the Jews had destroyed 500 men in Shushan and the 10 sons of Haman. Esther then made a second request, that the Jews could attack their enemies the next day also, and she asked that the dead bodies of Haman's sons be hanged from the gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. This request was granted. Approximately 75,800 of the Jews' enemies were killed in the 127 provinces. But the Jews did not take any of the enemy's goods. They did not take their clothing, their wealth, their money. They took nothing of the enemy's goods. Mordecai became second in the kingdom, next to the king, and great among the Jews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, and speaking peace to all his seed. The devil hates Israel and the Jews. First, because it was through the Jewish seed line that Messiah Yeshua was born. Second, the Jews are close to God's heart. They are God's chosen people. In the Torah, we read in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6, "For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. For the Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people. But you were chosen because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto the fathers." In other words, the oath he swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Avraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob. The devil showed his hatred of the Jewish people in Nazi Germany when he had 6 million killed under Adolf Hitler. Satan has repeated this plan throughout the centuries. He did not want the deliverer from Zion, Messiah Yeshua, to be born. The enemy tried to destroy the Hebrew boys in Moses' day under Pharaoh. The enemy tried to destroy the Hebrew boys in Esther's day under Haman. The enemy tried to destroy the Hebrew boys in Yeshua's day under King Herod. Satan will try again to destroy the Jews. He does not want Mashiach, the Messiah, to return the second time to establish his earthly kingdom. The devil will try to destroy the Jews with a cataclysmic flood during the Great Tribulation, or the time of Jacob's trouble that Jeremiah the prophet spoke of. You can also read in the Brit Hadashah in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, the devil knows that when the Jews invite Messiah back, then he will return. In the Tanakh, in the book of Zechariah, chapter 12, verse 9, we read where God says, I will pour out upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourns for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. Also in Zechariah chapter 13, verse 1, in that day there shall be a fountain opened to the house of David, and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem for sin and for uncleanness. My friend, ask God for the ministry of national deliverance. You can be instrumental in the impact of the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, upon your country or region, upon Israel, and upon your family, tribe, or ethnic group. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? This is Prince Handley coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure healing love.